Setting the stage for success with your LinkedIn summary. Woo!
And welcome back to LinkedIn to Lead Generation with Hannah Tai, and welcome to our 4-part series. It's all about increasing response rates and responsiveness on LinkedIn. This is the first part of that series, and sure, we want to be successful, Hannah. We want to set that stage for success. So what are we talking about in this episode?
Sure. So right now we're going to talk about everyone wants to be an expert, right? But what is it that you specifically want to be an expert in? And making sure that you find those keywords so that people are looking for your services can actually find you and actually can see that you have success and experience in those areas. So we're going to talk about making sure those keywords are really involved in your story, in your summary.
And as we were prepping for the show, I mean, we always like to keep it to 3 key bullet points. So you and I talked about the fact we're going to talk about those keywords. Everyone wants to be an expert. What do you want to be known for is the first one. Telling your story and shine on. And you're going to explain why it says no Bueller. And that sounds very, entertaining there. So, and then we're going to talk about the fact that the third point is you got to have a call to action to kind of close that deal, right?
Right.
So let's take that from the top. Everybody does want to be an expert, but in what, right?
Exactly. So, just saying that you're a social media expert, for instance, in my line of work, people are like, oh, I'm a social media expert, and I have Facebook marketing. So they say social media expert, Facebook marketing, lead generation, and Twitter marketing, or something like that. And they put all these different keywords in there. And maybe they do show up in search, which is great, okay? But then when the person and prospect looks at their summary, is that story actually showcasing that they have those skills and that they've had success in those areas? So instead of just saying, making it more generic, your summary, you want to really make sure that you're speaking directly to those points that match what you're trying to be known for in your headline.
Right, so you want that consistency, right? Because if
right.
It's almost like your headline is the promise, and if
right.
you're not delivering it down below in the summary, then you're just going to kind of confuse the people you're trying to connect with, right?
Right, because you got them to actually land on your profile, right?
Now you got to hold them, right?
Right, so you want to back it up, right? So you want to do that, and one of the ways that you can do that is, you can look at some of the other people in your field that are ranking really high. Okay,
mm-hmm.
And take a look at that and look at their language and how they, do that. You don't want to take directly from their summary.
You don't want to plagiarize and pretend you're somebody else.
No, but what you can do is you can see, how they're putting those keywords into their summary, how they're using that, and you can then add that into your summary in a way that makes sense with your personality and your experience and skill set.
Excellent. So I look at other people's profiles that are ranking for where I want to rank. Hey, this is the club I want to be part of and show up in. I look at their profiles, their titles, and I look for those common words, and I make sure that I'm using similar language, but then doing it in my own story about who I am and what I'm doing, right?
Exactly.
And speaking of story, I didn't mean to make such a great segue, but there's the segue. So our second point here that we're getting into is tell your story. And you're going to explain the Bueller reference here. So let's talk about that.
Yes. So as we all know, well, not as we all. This is really dating me, but Ferris Bueller, right? When the guy is like droning on in that same monotone and has no personality, no one wants to connect with that, right? Mm-hmm. So when someone is landing on your profile, you want to make sure that the summary section really showcases your personality and how you help them, and how you uniquely are as far as your tone and things like that, and the experience that you've had leading up to this point that can uniquely help them with their problem. Okay? So you want to just, again, tell your story, but showcase your humor or your quirkiness, or, don't be silly, obviously. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you're professional about it.
Show some personality, right? I mean, of who you are,
Yeah, but if you're, a chess player and you love chess, and you put that in your summary about how, you love chess, you love to do analytical type activities and puzzles and things like that, and that helps you when creating strategy and looking at how things work and fit together, why not?
Why not? Yes. So it sounds like some of the keys there, though, is yes, tell a story and be engaging, show some personality, but weave those things into a relevant story for what it is you are trying to showcase about your expertise, right?
Exactly.
So not random things about, I'm a dog lover and that has absolutely nothing to do, because then it's confusing, but your chess example is a great one because you're showcasing analytical skills, and if that's relevant to your expertise, then perfect, right?
Exactly.
Excellent. All right. So don't get into that Bueller, kind of situation. So let's move on to your third point, which I absolutely agree with is fundamentally critical, which is what's the call to action? How are you going to try to move this person somewhere else now? So what do you recommend to the people you're working with when you're helping them with their killer LinkedIn summary?
Sure. So when you are ending your summary and say you've created this great story and people are reading and they're interested and engaged, how can they reach out to you then? Okay, people are really lazy. Sometimes they don't understand how to go up to the contact section and all that other stuff. They're not connected to you, so they don't want to deal with sending you a connection or how to message you or all that kind of stuff. They don't want to send you an email. So if you have an actual call to action and you also open the door, and say, hey, please feel free to reach out to me. Always happy to connect. And give them that contact information right then and there. They're much more likely to do that. You can also, of course, put in, a link to something that they can read a little bit more about you. So maybe they're not quite ready. They want to find out a little bit more. So if you put in a link to, maybe a popular, white paper that you've done, or something that will get them to be able to explore a little bit more of like who you are and what your expertise really is in. Right. That's another way you can do it. So but always.
Even here on LinkedIn, you want to have that concept of a sales funnel, and you want to have some kind of logical next step to give people, because you've done the hardest thing, right? You've gotten them to actually land on your profile and read the summary. And now if you leave them hanging, you mentioned the word lazy about, that people are lazy, but I think the critical thing you're pointing out here is that we need to not be lazy with our own profiles and assume that just because my contact information is up above that someone's going to go up there and do that. Well, no, don't make me do work. You've got my attention. Put it right there. Tell me the next step. Give me a link. Give me an action step. Give me something that I can actually logically do next, right?
Exactly. Yes.
All right.
So you summed it up perfectly, Mark.
Well, I'm summing it up because you're giving it to me perfectly. So this has been great. This whole series is going to be all about increasing response rates and responsiveness on LinkedIn. If you're not using LinkedIn, you're missing out big time. But if you're using LinkedIn, this episode we've been talking about the fact that you're trying to set the stage for success by having a really good profile. And so what we hit here is that yes, everyone wants to be an expert, but you have to be clear using the right keywords what your expertise is. You need to tell it in the form of a story that gives lots of great relevant information and engages people and doesn't bore the heck out of them. And then if you've done that successfully, give the person the next step. Have that call to action. So great stuff, Hannah. I think that would make everyone's summary a whole lot stronger if they follow your advice, right?
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it.
So you need to connect with Hannah if you're working on your LinkedIn profile, and she is at chatterboxsocialmedia.com. If you go there, you can get connected, you can get on her mailing list, you can get all of these episodes and not miss out on the other 3 parts of this series, because I think you do want to increase your response rates and the responsiveness on LinkedIn. So stay connected to LinkedIn to Lead Generation with Hannah Tai. Hannah, we're going to come back with episode 2 in this series, so until then, I'm going to sign off and say thanks for this great information.
Thanks, Mark.